or the workshop. Welcome, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today in one of the Interagency Network for Education in Emergencies workshops. Today's workshops is titled, as you can see in the screen, From Theory to Practice, Strengthening Teachers' Wellbeing in EiE, and the focus will be in the MENA region. This workshop will be recorded, as I said, and we will be focusing on practical ideas that hopefully will support our teachers in the crisis and emergency affected context, and in the MENA region and beyond. This workshop is organized by the Interagency Network for Education in Emergencies, globally known as EiE. It's a network and a community of education in emergencies worldwide. So if you're not already a member of the network, we do encourage you to join the membership, free and accessible, and become a part of a global community and education solidarity movement. I'm dropping the link in the chat box that you can use to become a member of the network. Next slide, please. Thank you, Ista. My name is Ayman Khwader. I am the Middle East regional lead, the MENA regional lead, and I facilitate the Arabic language community for the network for EiE. I'm also joined today by my dear colleague Esther Impao, who is the PSS SEL coordinator at EiE. We will be both facilitating today's interactive participatory workshop, which will last for 90 minutes. I'll hand over to Esther to tell us a few words before we go into the ice break activity. Over to you, Esther. Thank you.
Thank you, Ayman. Thank you for having made this possible. I'm here to support the MENA region, courtesy of Ayman and the great work he's doing in that region. As you've been told, my name is Esther Mbao. I'm the PSS SEL coordinator, and I'm based in Nairobi, Kenya. I'm always here to support you regardless of your region or no matter the crisis you're facing. So today, I want us to start off the session with an icebreaker. As you can see from my screen, my introduction looks a bit different. So I want you to update your Zoom name to show your name, to also show your organization if it's possible, and the location you are joining us from. So take a few seconds. Let's all do this. I'd love to connect with you on this front. So you could write one name or both. I've written Esther Mbao, EiE PSS SEL, and I have given my region as Kenya. So please do that. That is step one as we kick off today's session. I am checking your names. I'm trying to see who has done that. Oh, thank you, Noor. Thank you. I can see NRC, Lebanon. Thank you for that. NRC is a great partner at EiE, both at an organizational and individual level. We have Laksina from UWS Nepal. Anyone else? Please do that as we continue. And then the next step is, let us know how your day is going using only an emoji for now. One emoji or two to show how your day is going or how you're feeling at this point in time. So I'm going to check the chat as well. Thank you, Dennis, for joining all the way from Jamaica. Alan from Libya. Mohammed from Afghanistan. Wow. Thank you, Narima, for showing us a smile from Palestine. I smile back at you. Let me see who else. Moat Meret from Palestine. Thank you for joining us. Nisrain is also smiling. Lian is grinning. Wilfredo has stuck out his tongue. I don't know what is going on there. Um, let me see who else is going to post. Dennis is a bit jumpy with smiley faces. Thank you. Charles has a face with spiral eyes. I don't know what's going on there. Jai is feeling weary. I send energy to you as we start this session. Moath is feeling relieved. Good afternoon. I am Abbas from Kaduna, Nigeria. I am happy to be here. My day is going just fine, although I am on transit right now. Thank you for joining us from wherever you are from. We don't take it for granted. We look forward to interacting with you either through the chat or when we allow for you to unmute. And we hope to have an engaging session. Mwanamisi is relaxed. Laxina has a smile. Who else? Safiullah Nuri is joining from Afghanistan. Thank you for joining. Please, if you've not let us know, please let us know who you are, your name, your organization, where you're joining us from. And if you want to let us know how your day is going, please also do that in the chat. But I'll hand it back to Ayman so that we can move this to the next level. Ayman, please take us through the
Thank
housekeeping
you.
rules before I
Thank you,
come back.
Esther, and thank you, colleagues, for all that interactive emoji in the chat box. Please continue to use the chat box throughout this workshop today. Just a quick housekeeping as we kickstart our workshop for today. So cameras is on if possible. We would love to see your faces and keep active participation throughout workshop if possible. And if we can ask you to please mute your microphone if you're not speaking, just to minimize the background noise. We encourage you, as we said earlier, to use the chat box and throw out with any questions. And if there is any tech issues throughout this workshop, please use the chat box to interact with us or tell us. As I said earlier on, this workshop will be recorded, and the recording will be used as a resource for our members, for our colleagues who were not able to join us in today's workshop. And it does seem that both of us, me and Esther, are a fan of emojis. So please, throughout this workshop today, feel free to use the emoji during the workshop just to keep the interaction and the engagement up. Thank you. And if we can go to the next slide, Esther. And of course, we welcome those who are joining us. We see more and more members and colleagues are joining the workshop. And before we begin, I would like to acknowledge that many of our teachers are working in context that is affected by conflict, displacement, uncertainty, wars, loss, trauma. Some of us may be supporting teachers and learners while are also navigating our own personal and professional challenges, and especially in the Middle East and North Africa and in the Arab region. This workshop is intended to be practical, participatory, reflective space, and also a space for learning, for solidarity, for support to our teachers and those working with teachers in the MENA region. Our goal is not to add another task to the already full-on workload, but to explore how we can better understand and support our teachers and our teachers' well-being in crisis and context settings. And by the end of this interactive participatory workshop, we hope that we will have a strong understanding of why teachers' well-being matters, what teachers are currently carrying across the region, and identify at least one realistic action they can take within their own context. And we will hear also from our members namely Wahid Jubran, who is our EiE country focal point in Palestine, and also the education sub-cluster coordinator in Palestine on the topic. And we look forward to having that experience from Palestine. And of course, we will be sharing resources, tools by the end of this workshop. And there will be time for the Q&A. And with that, I would love to hand over to my dear colleague Esther to dig deep into the workshop. Thanks so much again for joining. Please continue to use the chat box as interactive space. Over to you, Esther. Thank you.
Thank you, Ayman, for setting the scene for us today. And I want us to start from a place of why does this workshop matter now? And you know the thing about teacher well-being, it should not be considered a side issue. It should be actually an urgent priority. Teachers in crisis-affected contexts are often expected to hold many things at once. They are expected to teach, provide routine, support learners emotionally, maintain safety, respond to parents, and sometimes act as the first line of care in times of crisis. You know, PSS SEL cannot be sustained if the adults implementing it are unsupported, because at the same time, teachers are also affected by the same crises as their learners. They may be experiencing displacement, they may be having insecurity, grief, economic pressure, and even fear for their own families. So this workshop matters because we cannot ask teachers to support learners' well-being if they themselves are not being supported with their own well-being. And so the purpose for today is to move from simply recognizing teachers' stress to identifying practical and collective ways of supporting teachers' well-being. By the end of this workshop, I'm hoping we'll be able to describe the key stressors affecting teacher well-being in the MENA region. We'll explain why teacher well-being is essential for effective learning, for learner well-being, offering safe learning spaces and quality education in times of emergencies. We'll identify practical ways to support teachers' well-being at individual, peer, school, organization, hopefully community and event systems level. And then we will create and learn from each other. How do we create realistic actions that we can develop and take to strengthen teacher well-being in our different spaces? So as we begin, and I know this is a professional space, but I invite us to be more mindful instead of having a mindful. I know it could be morning, afternoon, or evening, regardless, depending on the region you're joining us from. And so I want to invite us to be able to just come into this space, being more present and more aware. So I invite us to sit up. Kindly sit up as we start today's workshop. I invite you to relax your shoulders as you see me doing. And if you're comfortable, you can close your eyes or just stare at one spot in front of you. And then I invite you to connect with your breathing. Listen to your breathing and try to shut out everything else. Move from your mind into your body. And so I invite you to intentionally breathe in and breathe out. Slowly, meaningfully, listen to your breathing. And then as we take in the second breath, I want you to create space for what we're about to engage in your mind and in your body. And so breathe in some energy, some strength, some love. And breathe out what your body no longer needs. It could be stress, it could be fatigue, it could be weary. Breathe it out. And then the last breath, I want us to create a sense of community. So we breathe in together so that we can come together mindfully. Hold your breath and then breathe out. And I want you to relax and feel yourself on your seat. If you had closed your eyes like me, you can open your eyes. And let us come back. So is your mind full or are you mindful? That we can plant something beautiful together as a community, as people passionate about education. Can we mindfully come together to learn, to support each other, and to just work together? So I hope that has helped you become more engaged in our session today. And as we start today's session, I also just want to take a moment to acknowledge that our teachers are the unsung heroes of our society. So if you're a teacher here today, please let us know. We're celebrating you. You are our hero. If you know of a teacher, after this meeting, please send them a message and let them know we celebrate them, because in times of actually education in emergencies, they not only come to give intellectual support, but also emotional and cognitive support. As you may be aware, teachers offer a sense of safety for most learners, and many of us would not have been here today if it wasn't for a teacher. I would not have been here today if it wasn't for the teachers that I still remember till today, who held my hand and offered me a safe space when I needed it beyond the learning that happens in the classroom. So if you're a teacher, I applaud you. On behalf of EiE, on behalf of all of us, I celebrate you today. And this is the importance of why we need to consider teacher well-being more than ever today. So I want us to start with a working definition of what is teacher well-being. And please note, I have put working definition because I want it to work for us. And teachers' well-being, it refers to emotional, social, cognitive, physical, professional, and spiritual capacity for teachers to feel safe, valued, and supported for them to be able to teach well. Teacher well-being is shaped by personal coping, relationships, working conditions, leadership, pay, safety, workload, community expectations, and policy decisions. In education in emergencies, which is EiE, teacher well-being must then be understood within the crisis and not separated from it. It cannot be separated from the wider realities of conflict, displacement, insecurity, poverty, and system pressure. So teacher well-being is not just about whether the teacher is feeling happy or not. It is about whether the teacher has the internal and external support needed to function, teach, relate, and recover. Having looked at that, I want us to look at what are the factors affecting teacher well-being. And this image created by Eamon helps us to come together and look at the factors that could be affecting teacher well-being. It could be feeling safe or not. It could be the workload. It could be the relationships they're in or not in. It could be policy decisions, community expectations, the pay, the leadership, their personal coping, and more importantly, their working conditions. A teacher may be stressed not only because of personal coping, but also because of the workload, because of delayed pay, because of difficult relationships, and all these other factors. So this is why teacher well-being cannot be reduced to teachers should just learn how to take care of themselves. Self-care matters, yes, but it is only one part of the picture. We also need to ask, what is surrounding the teacher? What is making their work harder or easier? What supports exist for them, and what support is missing? So this image should remind us that teachers are often at the center of many pressures, and these pressures can either support or undermine their well-being. So why teacher well-being matters in EiE is because teachers shape the learning environment. I remember in my own life, teachers who I would dread because of the type of, atmosphere they would create when they'd come into class. And their teachers, I remember with so much fondness and love because of the learning environment they created as they started the lesson. So when teachers are supported, they are more able to create classrooms that feel calm, inclusive, predictable, and safe. And teacher well-being then affects the learner safety, their belonging, their motivation, and their concentration. And a teacher regulated and supported is more likely to notice learners in distress, respond with patience and the proper support, and maintain a positive routine. On the other hand, when the teacher is overwhelmed, this can affect discipline, relationships, attention, and even class retention. So it is important to note that PSS and SEL, which we were able to look at in our last session, depends on teachers who have role clarity, support, and are also working with realistic expectations. And so when you support the teacher, you support the learners, psychosocial support and social emotional learning. And so as we do this, I know I've talked a bit. I want us to share in the chat, what are teachers carrying with them when they come into the learning space? You could write one word or a short phrase that describes what are teachers carrying in your context, given the crisis or the situation currently taking place. Think about emotional burdens, professional pressures, economic stress, safety concerns, family responsibilities, and community expectations. And write as many as you remember, but keep them short. And let's start looking at the responses and let us notice some common patterns across different countries or contexts. And the purpose of this activity is to begin from lived realities even before we talk about solutions. So let me go to the chat and see what are people saying. What are teachers carrying in the learning spaces in respect to your context? Dr. Mona says uncertainty, fear of the future, and community expectations, obligation and duty. That could be true. And it is true, there's a lot of obligations that you are carrying even with what is happening. And the duties given to you could also be heavy for you together with everything that you are carrying. Frustration. Thank you for sharing this. It's true. Many teachers carry frustration that they are not given a space to be able to address and work through. Any other issues you can share with us? This pain and fatigue. Thank you, Mwanamisi. That's very true. Safety or lack of it. Family responsibilities, workload, payments, safety on the roads. Very true. Remuneration and motivation. Thank you for sharing that. Professional pressure. Teachers are burdened with demands of crowded classrooms, low living conditions, and fulfilling parental demands at the same time. Personal burdens, fear for themselves and their loved ones, very true. And so how do you expect someone who has fear to create a safe learning environment without giving them support? Then teachers carry the emotional weight of supporting students through crises, heavy workloads, and high community expectations, all the while trying to protect their own well-being and sometimes their own sanity. Allow me to add that. Teachers themselves are being displaced due to escalation of hostilities and having to help displace students at the same time. System pressure, very true. Crisis and risk, expectations, feelings, perceptions, and protocols. Depression, it's very true. Love, yeah, they do carry a lot of love, and that's why they keep showing up. Impact of environment and disaster, responsibility, heavy workload, and poor remuneration. Thank you for all this and all that you continue to share. Allow me at this point to invite Wahid Gibran to share with us what he has seen in terms of teacher well-being and to give us a perspective. Wahid is the EiE country focal point and West Bank's Palestine Education Cluster Coordinator. So we want to hear from the ground, what are teachers carrying? And so Wahid, if you can hear me, over to you at this point.
Yes, I can hear you, Esther. Thanks a lot for this opportunity to talk to colleagues in many parts of the world and to talk to them from Palestine, from the OPT. Maybe you are aware of the situation in Palestine. We are living in a protracted crisis, prolonged occupation. Teachers are facing insecurity, economic hardship, repeated disruption, repeated escalation, movement restrictions, all these things. In addition to that, those who are working with the government have no regular salaries, partial salaries, sometimes no salaries, delay in salaries. And also there are the other challenges, social challenges, economic challenges. All these things, I am mentioning all these things that highlight the importance and the necessity to take care of the well-being of teachers. Usually, we talk about the well-being of students, of the learners, and that's okay. And we need all to take care of the learners' well-being. But how come that a teacher with no well-being and nobody is supporting the teachers or taking care of the well-being of a teacher, expecting from the teacher to take care of the well-being of learners? So teachers, they are at the center of education when we talk about here in Palestine about continuity, protection, and hope. Actually, what I believe in when we talk about well-being, there are three concentric circles. At the heart is the self-care. And it starts with the self. Well-being, it starts with the self. If I'm talking about the teacher, it starts with the teacher's self-care. But this is not sufficient. Self-care is not sufficient, and just to focus on the self and the role of the teacher on building his or her well-being is not enough if we're just focusing on the self. We need to consider what about the others, the peers, the family, the colleagues, the classmates or the schoolmates. And then we need to talk about the other, which is the outer circle, which is the system, the environment, the school, the Ministry of Education. But at the center is the self. We need to take care of ourselves as teachers, but we need also someone to support. So it is the beginning, or the center is the self, because what I believe, well-being, it cannot be granted or imparted to others or given to others. It needs to be built by ourselves, but this is not enough because we are living not in isolation. We need the support of others, and we know the support. What we have done here in Palestine to consider these factors, actually, I was engaged in many of these efforts, which I'm going to give as examples. For example, here in Palestine, we organize a training course for teachers and others who are interested in the teachers' well-being. It was about the factors that consolidate and enhance the well-being of the teachers. And it was about four webinars of that course, and all of that, it was interaction and talking about what do we mean by well-being and what is the role of the teacher. And pay attention with what I'm saying. I don't want the teacher to stand waiting to be given well-being from outside. The teacher should start with building him or his or her well-being, but we need the support. Because if there is no salaries, for example, if there is still economic hardship, if there is, as in the case in Palestine, escalations in West Bank and idiocy in Gaza and the restrictions of the movement, will affect the well-being of the teacher. So this is why we need to think about here how we can handle these factors, which most of them are out of hand. And here comes the challenge. If you want to support the teacher, but your hands are tied, as the case here in the Ministry of Education Palestine, they are have no money to pay the salaries, to pay the salaries, regular salaries. They don't have the money to organize so many activities to support the teachers, and they don't have the money to provide dignity or dignified life for teachers. But here comes also again the challenge. I'll come again to that course, how to help the teacher to build his or her well-being with the support of others. There was also something that has been developed at the Ministry of Education level, how to ensure that the school climate and class climate are positive and conducive to the learners and to the teachers' well-being both. So both. And there was also another initiative. Actually, it was done by one of the local NGOs with the support of one of the international NGOs, and for the interest of the Ministry of Education, again, how to take care of the factors that enhance the well-being of the teacher, because at the core, at the center, is the self. And when we talk about well-being, and these are going to be my last word, we need to consider the holistic well-being. We need to talk about the cognitive one, the emotional one, the social one, even the spiritual one. And this is why we need to take it or consider it holistically. So this is my contribution to this wonderful webinar and workshop. And thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to talk about well-being of teachers in Palestine. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Wahid. Kindly let's appreciate Wahid. As I mentioned, he is the EiE country focal point and West Bank's Palestine Education Cluster Coordinator. Please note, across the MENA region, we have several country focal points, and we do have Ayman, who is very passionate about this region. So never feel like EiE cannot support you in the region. We have the CFPs, and we have Ayman, and we have the entire secretariat when it comes to support. I know Wahid has mentioned about several workshops. If there are resources that you can share, Wahid, from this, and they are for use by anybody, feel free to drop in the chat. If you also have resources for teachers that are an open source and you'd like to share in this meeting, please drop it in the chat. We'll also add it to the thank you email as we send out the recording, and appreciate you for having attended this session. So thank you, Wahid. Allow me to summarize now the common stressors for teachers in crisis context under 3 categories. We have contextual pressures, where we have insecurity and displacement. We have community tensions and social pressure, and we have interrupted schooling. Then we have the emotional pressures, exposure to student trauma, fear for student safety, expectations to provide PSS and SEL, and they have their own emotional pressure given the circumstances they're in. Then we have the professional pressures, which could be large classes, mixed learning levels, lack of materials, stress to recover learning loss, and burnout, and the feeling of being responsible for more than they can control. So imagine all these at one time a teacher is carrying and is expected to respond to learners' distress and protection concerns. So this slide helps us to look at the weight our teachers are carrying. Naming it is important because we cannot support what we have not acknowledged. So please, let's take note of this, and let's look at what happens when teachers are unsupported. You know, they're carrying all these pressures, and then they're not supported. And what happens is there's reduced patience, there's reduced motivation and confidence, there's greater risk of teachers giving harsh discipline, withdrawing, or even emotional exhaustion. The unsupported teachers may also struggle to notice and respond to learners' distress because they are already overwhelmed. And then at system level, this can contribute to absenteeism, attrition, and a weakened school stability. Yet we have come to a place to acknowledge that education is a key response when it comes to education in emergencies. And it is also important to say that we are not here to blame teachers. It is about naming what they're not getting in terms of the unsupported systems. So teachers need support and they don't need judgment. Do not blame teachers, offer support, and then create a system where they're feeling they can actually implement PSS and SEL and offer learner support activities. So I want us to look at I want us to move from school support to look at where are the teachers in terms of their self-care. Self-care matters, but it is not important. We want to move to a system of care. Teacher well-being should not be treated as an individual responsibility, but schools, organizations, communities, and systems all shape teachers' well-being. And so a system of care approach will ask what support surrounds teachers before they reach the level of burnout. And we know burnout can be very tough to work through and to recover from. So we want to look at, before teachers get to burnout, and pass this over to the learners, how do we offer support to ensure teacher well-being? And so teacher well-being will be looked at in terms of, in terms of 3 different principles. And I'm borrowing these principles from the teacher well-being guidance note that was developed by EiE and has been contextualized for different contexts and situations. Principle 1 is about promoting teachers' access to mental health and psychosocial support. Principle 2 is about creating an enabling work environment for teachers. And principle 3 is about enhancing teachers' voices, agency, and leadership. And who supports teacher well-being? The parents and the caregivers, the teachers themselves, the school leaders, policymakers, governments, donors, and the community at large. So this is to set the ground and say, we're looking at teacher well-being in 3 principles, but who also offers teacher well-being? I also want you to look at this briefly in terms of the contextual framework for teacher well-being in low resource, crisis, and conflict-affected context. And we look at it in terms of the different levels. We look at it at the individual level in terms of the teacher, their gender, their displacement status, level of education, coping mechanism, employment status, teaching experience, content, knowledge, and cultural competence. This could actually become protective factors when it comes to teacher well-being. And then the second layer of this framework is the school, the context itself for the teacher. What are the peer relationships with their colleagues? What is the teacher-student relationship like? What is the relationship with the school leadership? And what are the school resources that are there to support the teacher in terms of their work? And then from the second layer, we move to a third layer contextually, which is about the community. And I know this is a tough ask, but we hope the community can come in to support the teachers in terms of access to basic needs, respect and recognition, and then offering responsibility in terms of managed expectations and supporting their duty. From the community level, we now move to the national, regional, and global context, which is about the policy environment at national, regional, and global level. And this is about teacher management, the right to work, compensation, teacher professional development, and certifications. Please note, as I talk about all these levels, they are grounded on the EiE minimum standards aligned with and provide guidance for understanding and applying this in your local context. So please always consider teacher well-being at these 6 levels, and the framework helps us to see that there is no single solution, but support needs to be layered right from the individual to the global context. Please, if you have any thoughts or any questions, throw them in the chat. I'll take a break and pause and look at what we are saying in the chat. Thank you so much for giving us such an insight about teacher well-being. I'm sure that is for ahead. Our target teachers are crises impacted, living and working in a challenging context, including man-induced disasters. Very true. That is who we are looking at today as we look at teacher well-being. So I want us to look at teacher well-being in terms of the 6 levels. What can support look like, and what are some practical examples? At the individual level, we could have coping skills being taught to them, setting of boundaries, rest, encouraging help seeking, and even teaching them stress management. And some of these examples could be grounding, teaching them breathing exercises, and realistic self-care plans. At the peer level, they could have mutual support, shared reflection, and problem solving. And we could have teacher circles, buddy systems, and even WhatsApp support. At the school level, I know the leadership has targets, but they should offer support as they aim to meet these targets. They should also give a safe climate and manageable expectations. And how could this look like? Check-ins regularly, workload review, and supportive supervision, and not judging supervision. Organizational level, staff care, training, mentoring, safeguarding, and referral pathways for those who need further support. And at the organizational level, how could this look like? Setting out clear roles, PSS SEL boundaries, and mentoring as well. At the community level, and I hope we can speak to our communities, do we recognize our teachers? Do the parents support? And do we have culturally meaningful social support? And how could this look like? Community appreciation, faith, and community support. And at the system and policy level where we can influence this, can we have teacher voices? Can we evaluate their pay, their contracts, their professional development and protection? And what could this look like? Policies, budgets, and having teacher well-being indicators. So these are the 6 levels, and all levels may not work at the same time or at the same levels, but if we are able to do what we can within the level of influence we are in, then we should be able to offer that to the teachers. Are you able to offer at a peer level? Are you able to offer at a school level? As your organization, can you support the schools? And as a community, can you come in to offer recognition and even give parental support and meaningful cultural social support? So I want us to look at practical strategies, and I want us to look at what we can do in terms of the check-ins. Can we create structured moments for teachers to name how they are arriving without forcing disclosure? Can you use prompts such as "today I am arriving with," or "one thing helping me continue is," keeping it brief, voluntary, and offering a safe, non-judgmental space. And then use patterns for check-ins to inform leadership support, not to monitor or to punish. And I like to share one example that Dr. Mona shared with us as we were preparing these slides. And she mentioned, could we have small groups of teachers who meet regularly to reflect on challenges and support one another? It could be over a morning cup of tea, morning breakfast, or it could be at the 10 o'clock break time that we extend with 5 or 10 minutes for teachers to reflect on challenges and to support each other. And this is where I start with the peer support circles. In the school, can they have time to just support each other and not really look at the curriculum? A simple structure could be, what was hard this week? What helped? What support do I need? What can we try next? How do we support each other? Circles can reduce isolation and strengthen practical problem solving within the school environment. However, they need to be secured in trust, confidentiality, clear boundaries, and clear rhythms. So I hope as I'm sharing these practical strategies, this is strategy number 2, you're able to come up with solutions that you can even implement from tomorrow and start to build on teacher well-being beyond this workshop as soon as is possible. Practical strategy number 3 is about role clarity and boundaries. And this is, teachers are often expected to do everything and anything, especially in crisis contexts. They need to teach, comfort, protect, refer, discipline, report, and sometimes provide emotional support. But teachers need clarity about what they can safely do and not do, and what they should be expected to carry and be supported in. Teachers can notice distress, they can listen, they can provide basic support and create safer routines and refer learners for appropriate services. These are professional mental health services. However, teachers should not be expected to now become mental health professionals by diagnosing, investigating, providing specialized therapies, or carry major serious cases alone. Use a clear referral pathway and safeguarding pathways to protect both the learners and the teachers, and use simple and safeguarding pathways that teachers can use and understand. Please note why we are emphasizing on boundaries, because boundaries protect both the learners and the teachers. And boundaries are not about a lack of care. Boundaries are part of safe and ethical care. So please clarify what teachers can safely do and what they cannot do. Clarify their roles, give clear, simple referral and safeguarding pathways, and let them handle what they can manage realistically. Practical strategy number 4 is about supportive supervision. And in many systems, supervision is mainly about inspection, compliance, or performance monitoring. Supportive supervision should offer shifts that you approach the teacher in a different way. It will ask, what are you noticing about the teacher? What is difficult with their work, and what support do they need? This does not mean that standards will be ignored. It actually means supervision becomes a learning and a supportive process, not a judgmental one. Supervision should look like a supervisor asking, what is going well? What feels heavy? What is affecting your classroom? What support would make your work easier, and how can we offer this support? Supervision conversations can include also about the emotional load, the classroom climate, the learner needs, and the teacher's individual well-being. This will actually help teachers feel seen and not being evaluated. I'm sure you and I already know how tense it is to be evaluated. So when a teacher is being evaluated under a crisis context, they are not feeling seen, they actually feel more threatened. So create supervision as a tool for offering support and checking in to see how much further you can, hold the teacher and ensure their well-being is being taken care of, even as you hold them accountable to the standards and to the compliance that they're supposed to uphold. Then practical strategy number 5 is about leadership recognitions. And teachers often continue teaching in difficult conditions because they feel their role has meaning. I have seen teachers who struggle because they feel like my contribution in this context is to be able to give learners a space where they can come, congregate together, play, and just get a sense of belonging. And as I continue to teach, I feel like I am being meaningful and supporting with whatever is happening. So, recognition, appreciation, and inclusion in decisions can strengthen motivation and dignity. And communities can and should support teachers through respect, parent engagement, and shared responsibility for learner well-being. I know this may not happen in many instances, and that is the reason I have said communities can and should support teachers. And then recognition should be genuine and linked to practical support and not used to replace fair pay or safe conditions. I've looked at several practical strategies. I now want us to get into breakout rooms where we design, and you could design with the strategies I've given, or even with strategies you're seeing happening on the ground. But we want to give you a space where you can come up together and look at what can we design in terms of teacher well-being and make it actionable. So you could choose one challenge. Is it burnout? Is it unsupported teachers? Is it large classes? Is it distressed learners, no referral pathways, weak leadership, and many other challenges that you could be experiencing on the ground? And then discuss what is the well-being needed behind this challenge? What can teachers do together? What can school leaders or organizations do? What support is needed from the community or the systems actors, and what can we begin within 1 month? So the output will be one realistic, safe, and context responsive teacher well-being action. We will post this in the chat for you to discuss further in your groups. But at this point, allow me to hand it back to Eamon to put us into breakout rooms for the next few minutes. And then we will come back into plenary and share very briefly what has come out from our groups. Eamon, back to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Esther. And yes, we will be split into 5 breakout rooms. Each breakout room will have 7 to 8 participant colleagues. So please, within your group, make sure you assign a facilitator and a note taker for within your group. We also have Dr. Wahid, Dr. Mona with us, thankfully supporting. So yeah. So please, I'm gonna open the breakout room, discuss the strategies that Esther has explained, and have fun. And if there is any technical issue, please let me know. I am opening the breakout room now. Thank you. Placid, Noor, Arish, Shireen, Atrash, Blessing, and Mankina. Are you able to join the breakout room? Hi, Bushra. Hi, Mawiya. Can you hear me? We are still in the breakout room. I'm not sure whether you were able to join or you stayed in the plenary, but feel free to contribute even here in the plenary if you hear me. Thanks. All right. Is there closing the breakout room in 30 seconds? Do you have the resources handy, Ista, by any chance? For the last
The
slide.
resources.
Yeah.
Let me see. The link, let me
Yeah.
share it now.
Just put it in the chat box or even in the slide so I can share it when times comes. Yeah.
Let's see.
Okay.
There.
Thanks so much. Okay. Okay, let me copy this and close the breakout room so they have 1 minute. Oh, thanks, you added already. Excellent. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for coming back. I know the time felt like 3 minutes once the conversation started moving. Hopefully, we will create more learning spaces where we can facilitate less and you can talk more. Amen, challenge to you, and I'm open to continue to support this learning. However, in the few minutes, I'd like for us to briefly share what has come out from our groups, even as we begin to wrap up today's session. So this is how you are going to report back. Share your chosen challenge, share one practical action, name who needs to be involved, and name one condition that would make the action safe and sustainable. So I'll allow every group maybe 30 seconds in the interest of time to just quickly share back. And you can also, the other members can also share in the chat as well. So who wants to start?
Okay, I will start very quickly. Group 2. The challenge is having so many unsupported teachers, and there is not enough support for teachers. And the solution is 30 minutes reflective circles where teachers can safely, sustainably share their challenges and share strategies that would work to overcome those strategies. And a very important condition is to have the school leaders being there actively listening. They are there in order to actively listen, to understand the challenges the teachers are going through and only react and make plans after they actively understood and listened to the teachers and their challenges. What needs to be done so that this is sustainable? We need to have a mind shift where the community as a whole does not have such high expectations from the teachers. We also said that monthly cultural role play sessions is very important, would help also to communicate the challenges and the issues teachers are going through very quickly. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mona, for sharing Group 2's feedback. We hope the other groups have picked up what she has done. And even as I invite the next group, please be aware that Dr. Mona will be facilitating the Arabic version of this workshop next week on Monday. So please, if you want to join again, sign up. If you have colleagues who missed today and they want to participate in Arabic, please ask them to sign up. They'll be in very good hands with Dr. Mona and Ayman. And I will be in the background to just enjoy the Arabic that I don't really understand. So who wants to go next?
I will go. I don't exactly remember our group, the group number,
Tracy.
but so we started to discuss also unsupported teachers, and we were really fortunate. We could hear from Aref, who explained the situation in Afghanistan. So it's more of an extreme emergency situation, and we also had Dr. Jubran. So we were super lucky group because it was two very extreme situations. Because we went back, I think we ended with more questions than we started, but that was our challenge, was unsupported teachers. A practical action was teachers meeting together, like a circle, exactly what was said before, and supporting each other. Because if you don't have the support of the community, you don't have the resources available. You may not even have the support of parents. It's kind of impossible to really get community support. So teachers really are on the ground like grassroots, underground workers, basically. So was a much bigger challenge that we talked about. So those who need to be involved, of course, would be the teachers, and just mostly having this kind of psychosocial support from them and coming up with solutions, but they are pretty much alone in this situation. So safety-wise and sustainable, it's hard to say. Is it safe that they're even meeting, right? So is it safe that they're even discussing? So it's a much bigger question. And I think from my point of view, coming from some policy development and 30 years in education, but you can make a lot of rules and regulations and ideas, and you can give these things, but does it actually work on the ground in these situations? And sometimes you have to say, I don't know, we don't have the solution. We're doing our best to do what we can, but are there solutions for everything? I'm not so sure.
Thank you, Tracy. And we don't have to have solutions for everything. We don't have to have solutions for the long term. Sometimes it is, what can we do here and now to just be able to sustain ourselves to the next day and the next day and the next day. So sometimes it could be, sometimes I tell people, take it day by day, in as much as we want to look at sustainability and safety in the long term. And so I think it is looking at it in a very contextual manner and saying, in this context, this is what we can do here and now, even before thinking about long term. And there are contexts where we can say in the long term, this is what we can do. But thank you for sharing that. Very reflective, very, very reflective. And I hope we are all getting something and grasping that circumstances are different, but teacher well-being needs to be rooted. And I've had something being said, can the community really support? So I encourage all of us in this meeting, beyond here, can we first create awareness on the importance of teacher well-being even as we look at actionable steps. So I'll allow the other three groups 30 seconds each if they're ready. I know there's group 1 and group 3 and 4. Yes, group 1, 30 seconds. Go, Abbas. Yes.
All right. It's like almost everyone is hammering on unsupported teacher because that's basically where the aim is concentrating more. So we looked at a lot of points, and we've realized that security is number one. You know, a lot of staff are actually working in a very, very dangerous terrain, starting from the banditry. Like I'm taking my context, Nigeria, banditry. Talk about uh, terrorism. Talk about extremism. All of that. In fact, in some places, you drag children with the community because they wouldn't want to let you have the children being taught and then eventually something happens at the teaching environment. So there are a lot of other safeguarding issues, not even on the learners. It's right now the thing is just cumbersome. And we talked about training, that's TDP, Teachers to Development Programs, and the reward system. We talk about motivation. We talk about the health system, and we spoke about how to really cope this issue. So um, we spoke about the need for teachers to be very very self alert, to be aware of the environment, to be security conscious. And we talk about collaborative learning, create the creation of online platforms so that they can actually be talking about what is involved or what is trendy, just like this webinar I'm having. It's actually giving me a whole world view of what the world is about, and it's like the information is global. That everywhere in the world is actually facing such kind of problem, more especially in countries like mine. So
30 seconds, Sherry, so that we can also close in good time.
okay. So I think the last question is what can I propose for to be achieved in 1 month? I think creating a secure environment for the teacher and learner is one thing that can be achieved if only we have a functional and people who are passionate with education and realize that education is the foundation of every standing nation. Thank you.
Thank you, Sherry. Thank you for that. Very passionate about your points. And it's interesting that you're joining from Nigeria in a MENA focused workshop. It means that what we are learning, it is contextual, but can also be applied across the globe. The other two groups, 30 seconds each. I do not want to leave you out. Anybody would like to share from the other groups?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes, 30 seconds. Group 30 seconds, Nariman.
Okay. Let's talk about, we took burnout as one of the challenges because burnout means that teachers went through all the stresses and from the environment, from the load, from everything. So how to treat that or how to make this into a practical action, we divided into the 5 groups. Individually, the teacher will exercise according to her previous training on PSS and healing and opening up and taking 1 day or 2 days for to rest. The peer support, she can open up with the peers to the peers about her stresses, and they can also share it on WhatsApp. For the school community, the policy should be clear, and they should allow the teacher to take 1 day or 2 days without judgment. and they can, if they can refer her to debriefing session or to get psychosocial support as extra. Also, if we are going to talk about the environment, like parents, good communication with parents and the recognition of the teacher role will support her psychologically and emotionally. From the global community and from the others, and recognition that the teacher's role will relieve or motivate the teachers much more. This is a quick brief about the burnout. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Nariman,
You're
for that
welcome.
brief
You're welcome.
summary. The other group, can we hear from them? If there's a willing participant. We only have 2 minutes before we close the workshop, but I don't want to leave you out. Okay, allow me to move this forward in the interest of time. The other group could share in the chat. I just wanted to give us a few simple questions to think about as a simple action planning tool. Please note the slides will be shared. There'll be a recording shared, so feel free to refer back. What teacher well-being issues are we addressing as we look at teacher well-being? What is one small action we can take in the next 2 weeks? Who needs to be involved? What support or permission is needed? How will we know whether it helped? And what risk or harm do we need to avoid? So as we're thinking about the teacher well-being strategy, I want to remind us that you can never pour from an empty cup. So you cannot ask teachers to pour from cups that we have not intentionally refilled or filled them with. So what are we giving our teachers, or what are we pouring into our teachers' cups? And this is the call as we look at teacher well-being, that they have to be filled intentionally, and what we fill them within is what they take into the learners and into the learning space. And so teacher well-being is not only about helping teachers cope, it is about creating humane, supportive, and sustainable education systems. When teachers are supported, learners are more likely to experience safety, belonging, care, and meaningful learning. And as we wrap up, I want to thank you all for your continued work and what you continue to do with and for the teachers and the learners across the MENA region. Whether you're a teacher, you're a program manager, whether you're just supporting in whatever capacity, thank you for what you're doing for the education space in the MENA region. And with that, I want to highlight the EiE Teachers Wellbeing resources that you can find online and download at any time. You can reach out to me for any questions, matters PSS, SEL, and teacher well-being, and for any matters across the MENA region. Please feel free to always reach out to my colleague, Ayman Quaida. And with that, I hand it back to Ayman to wrap up and to close for us today's session. And I thank you all for being here.
Thank you so much, Ista, for that passionate conclusion of this workshop. And I want to reiterate my big thank you for everyone who have stayed with us throughout this an hour and a half. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your participation and for the work that you continue to do in a difficult situation. Thank you, Wahid, for sharing the insight of Palestine. Thank you for the interactive breakout rooms. Today we have explored together teachers' well-being as something really practical, recreational, contextual, and hopefully integrated into our education setting. We hope we have contributed, at least leaving you with some clear language, practical strategies, or at least one action that you can try your own context. Whether you're a teacher or you're working with teachers, please continue engage with EiE resources that we shared in the chat books, as Esther mentioned. Join our EiE community of practice, and be alert for more regional opportunities. One final reminder that we are hosting the very same workshop next week, the 6th of July at 3 p.m. Amman time, We'll have Wahid, we'll have Dr. Mona with us as well. This will be a workshop facilitated in Arabic. So please feel free to share it with your network, with your partners, stakeholders in the MENA region. We look forward to learning from you. So please stay in touch with us. Reach out to Ista, to myself, to our country focal points. If any support resources required, we thank you. We wish you strength, care, and continue connection to your work. Thank you so much and have a good day, good evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Shukran. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.